I suppose you forgot to tell him to sit. I still did it anyway. So can you come on? So we have here with us 3 key experts. We have 2 experts in renewable energy and big data. And we have an expert on the actual hardware side of the drones. How are you doing, sir? Just the joke there. So why don't we start by you introducing yourselves, and each of you, how do you work with the drones at the moment, how you came in contact with them? So you want to start here, Johan?
Yeah, so for me, it's quite simple. I'm from Flyability. We're a manufacturer of a drone, of this drone in particular, which is a very specific drone that can fly into places that no other robot can fly and can replace human intervention in confined spaces. So for example, if we're talking about the renewable energy, we recently did a trial flying inside the wind blades of wind turbines for the inspection of the integrity of the wind turbine. So we're a developer of hardware, so it's pretty simple.
So we're going to go through some of the things that you do with your drones. Riaan, what about you?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Riaan Meyer. I'm from a company called GeoSun Africa. We're based near Cape Town in South Africa, and we supply various services to the PV and CSP industry. So we started using drones to do thermographic inspection of PV modules. The status quo or the current situation is that O&M personnel would walk through the rows of modules with a handheld camera, and they would typically only inspect 20% of the modules due to the size of the plants. In South Africa, we've got pretty large PV plants, up to about 85 megawatts. So drones was an obvious choice to take over this service, to be more time efficient and more efficient in the detection of defects.
And last but not least, Wei, can you tell us what is your relationship, or what your company does in relationship to drones?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Wei. My company is Ava. We are based in Singapore. So the full name of the company is actually Advanced Vision Analytics. So as the name suggests, we are actually a software company and a data analytics company that specializes in utilizing artificial intelligence or AI algorithms to do advanced classification of defects from drone images for solar panels. So we provide image analytics as a service. So with the insight generated from the image analytics, the plant owners and the operators, they can gain a lot of the benefits. For example, they can reduce the cost from doing by preventing to do the handheld thermal camera inspection, and also they can improve the plant yield with all of these insights.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just before we go ahead, if you have any questions, if you can put your hands up, I'll come and get you a little bit later on in the session. But please do let me know that the questions are there so that we can, by all means, ask any question anytime. Let's start with the value of this drone technology. Just out of interest, how many people here have had personal experience with drones before? Can you put your hands up? Okay, 5, 6, 7. What about professional experience? Do you use it professionally in any of your companies at the moment? Okay, 1. Okay, that's good. Maybe we come and ask you how you use drones later. So, based on this, how do you sell the value to these people? Let's say, some of them have tried them, they quite like them. So how do we sell? What can they do? What can they achieve for me today? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I think I can start on this one. From a manufacturer standpoint, it's pretty easy to have an opinion on that, and I would let the 2 guys talk about data management and data analytics afterwards. But when you talk about drones, drones are like tools. You need different types of drones to have a complete toolbox. So you need drones for critical infrastructure inspection. You need drone for long endurance inspection of power lines, pipelines, and assets like this ones. And you need also the drone for confined spaces. So the value that drones has is the value that you want to give them. That's the first message, and the time you invest in them, and the commitment you're doing in drone technology, because it seems easy to use. The drones that you're using for a child are pretty easy to pilot. You don't have to do anything. When it comes to inspecting critical infrastructure like solar panels, like wind turbines, it's a different story. You need to prepare the missions, and you need to know what you're going to do with the data and manage the data. So maybe you guys want to talk about data a bit?
Maybe first, further on the value, maybe I can use an example. So there's a specific 85 megawatt solar plant in South Africa, and we got contacted by the owner, and he said his own team inspected the whole plant using handheld cameras, and they came back and they said they found 4 defects, so 4 modules with a defect. And he wanted to commission the drone because he was not convinced that there could only be 4 modules with a defect. So it took them months to do it by hand. I think they had a team of 2 people that would walk every day through the rows of modules. So they commissioned the drone service. It was conducted in 3 days, and we found just under 200 modules with defects. So the advantage or the value of the drones are it's much more efficient in detecting the defects, because typically the people that is sent out in the field are the lowest skilled guys in the plants. And I'm not sure if they maybe just walked around the corner and sat under the tree or what they did, but clearly there's a very big difference in using a semi-automated drone as a tool versus doing it by hand.
Yeah, I would also add on the value that it's easier to deploy in certain situations. Maybe not that much in this example that you're giving, but when you have to inspect, for example, a wind turbine, and you have sky climbers that have to go inside the mast and be harnessed and so forth and so on, the drone technology is really much easier to deploy. You just put the battery on, you go and fly the drone, and you get back the images. So,
I think the value of the drone to us is. Drone gives us a lot of new insights. It actually signals a new era, and that era is actually the era of data. But this data is mainly coming from images. So what we can do with the images is boundless, because you can use a lot of the tools available in the market to find out a lot of insights from the sites. For example, you can use a drone in evaluating the sites, or you can also use it for inspections. So in terms of the value, it's boundless to us, and I think we can keep on exploring them.
Okay, so the pros are very, very clear. We've all heard them. We'll talk a bit later about, as a company today, what I have to do in order to be able to implement it. But what I want to hear is what are the challenges? Because all of these new technologies are wonderful, until it takes 5 minutes to reboot my phone when I really need to make a call. So what are the challenges that we're having right now?
The challenges is that so we're talking about drones used for inspection of critical assets, solar panel, wind turbines, power generation, utilities, whatever asset you want to inspect. The challenge is that the first one is that if you want to go to the drone technology and want to use the drone technology, you need to commit resources to it. It's not an easy to learn technology. It's a pretty new technology, so you need to dedicate resources, not only financial resources, because there is some capital expenditure involved, of course, but you also need to have the right people, and you need to have skilled people. If you want to develop in-house a drone department, you need to hire the right people, you need to train them, and you need to keep them current. So that would be my intake from a manufacturer standpoint, and that's something we're facing on a daily basis, and that's why as a company we do also provide training to our clients, because it's critical that the asset owners understand that it's not just a plug-and-play technology that you put a battery in and it's going to inspect alone the asset. You also need to have the eyes of the inspector, and you also need to have the pilot that is skilled enough to get the best out of the flight time.
So just before we continue with this question, we'll go back to the issue of battery lives. Don't worry, because I'm sure this is what everyone is thinking. Certainly I was. But Riaan, go on.
So from a service provider's perspective, our challenges lies in getting a permit for a drone. I'm not sure if it's the same in all countries. In South Africa, it takes about 2 years to get a permit to fly a commercial drone for commercial purposes. You can imagine the challenges around that. We've received a lot of requests from other countries to provide our services there, and getting permits for new countries, because sometimes even if you've gone through this 2-year process, your permit might not be recognized in a new market. Transporting drones is also a challenge, even internally. We once took a domestic flight with our drone, and they didn't allow us on because of the batteries. We did everything which was on the airline's website, how you should package the batteries, and we ended up driving to the other side of our own country because our one airline wouldn't allow us on the flight. And then similarly with international flights. So I would say those are our two most biggest challenges.
Yeah, there's a company that was telling me yesterday that in order to fly a drone in Australia, you need to go through the same permitting process as an airline.
Exactly.
So it took them years, like 2 years, to set up just a drone company.
But at the end of the day, it's an aircraft, so you have to be aware of air traffic regulation. For this platform in particular, it's not very valid because this flies indoor, but for the platforms you're using, you have to be aware that you're not alone in the sky, it's an aircraft, there's traffic, and you need to be aware of the regulation. The other challenge I would add maybe is the data management, because you're getting a lot of video footages, photos, a lot of data. How do you go and organize that? You would be...
Absolutely.
I suppose that's waste department.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think I would say a little bit more on the software and the algorithm challenges for the drone. So like what Johan said, you have a lot of images. So how do you actually go through all of the images and find out the problems within these images? And after finding out these defects, you have to correlate back to your actual sites to find out exactly where it is. So all of these, you have a tons of problems that you need to picking up the problems in the images and then correlate back to the actual site precisely, and that only will add the value to the drone. So there is one part of the challenges that software is facing. The other side of the problem of software is drone can collect a lot of images and they are best used for inspections as of now. But that is not the full potential of the drone, like what I said just now, because the potential of the drone is boundless. We can mine a lot of the information from the drone. So for example, if you use a drone and set it on autonomous flight over 200 acres of land, it can be, the flight, to cover 200 acres of land will only take about 30 minutes to 40 minutes if you fly high enough. And you can actually generate a 3D model. It's a 3D terrain model that is precise enough that can allow you to do civil estimation and flood study to do a lot of evaluation on the feasibility of the site. However, so the challenge is if you have trees and vegetations on this land, the information or the 3D models that you generated is not so accurate anymore. And that is the reason why the challenge is in the software, that we need to use artificial intelligence to actually remove these trees artificially so that you can have a clean data on the site that you have, and you can work on that and do a better estimation.
I'd like to add one thing. Unlike Johan's solution, which I think is great, our deployment is outdoors. And both for solar and wind, the service is weather permitting. If you do inspections on wind turbines on the outside, I mean, the wind turbine is placed in a windy area, and drones doesn't like wind. So you have to sometimes wait days for the wind to be low enough in order to inspect the blades on the outside. And same on the solar side. We are hampered by winds, but we also need to inspect the solar modules when the irradiance, when the sun is above a certain level. You need sunny conditions. So in South Africa, there's actually 2 months of the year which we can't do inspections in the middle of winter because the solar irradiance is too low. So those are 2 additional challenges to take into account.
This is an interesting one. I am assuming that at least in the case of the wind turbine, it would be the same for a human actually doing it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know about the solar, whether it's the same case, but definitely with the wind, it's also dangerous if you go up in certain conditions, I suppose. Okay, I had I have a lot of questions about AI, and the rest, but I want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. So all of these people in the audience are thinking, do I implement a drone? Does it make sense for me? And I'd like you to give examples with actual cost values of either money savings or advances in terms of data crunching that have been made possible, but with actual dollar values, because it's really simple to see, yes, it's very useful, but how much does it impact my pocket? So do you have any
I've got some values in my head which I can throw.
Right, this is what I'm saying, like maybe some examples, so you can save this much in main hours, this much in whatever else, yeah?
We had a solar plant which was complaining about underproduction. Drone did an inspection and found 58 of the strings in the plant which were disconnected. So it's fuses that blew, and the operators didn't know it. They didn't pick it up on the SCADA. So the plant was losing $60,000 a year because those modules were not producing. And the drone service would have cost them $10,000 to $15,000. So
this wouldn't have been picked up by a human on the ground?
Well, they didn't pick it up.
So for 15K, I saved like 60K a year? No
exactly.
Less. Right. Any other?
Yeah, I would have 3 examples. 2 could be financial, and 1 could be increased safety of workers. We had this client of ours, one of the large utilities in the world, that deployed this technology in their boiler of a power generation, gas combined cycle power generation boiler. And they would save $12,000 on one inspection because they do not have to build scaffolding on the inside the whole structure just to go and have a look. They go with the drone, they have a quick look, and then they decide on the maintenance plan, and they do only tactical scaffolding. So they calculated they saved $12,000 on one inspection. The other example I would have is in the nuclear industry. Again, one of the large US utility using nuclear reactors. Usually when they do an inspection in a critical area, they have to send people in. Before sending people in, they have to decrease the output of the generator by 80%, and they can send people for 2, 3, 5 minutes, depending on the generator. With a drone, they could go without decreasing the power. So you can imagine if you decrease a nuclear reactor by 80% for 6 hours, it costs a lot of money. So they told us they saved about $500,000. I'm not sure if it's completely true, but they saved a substantial amount of money. And the other benefit I could say, which is not financial or not something that you can judge financially, is the increased safety of workers. A lot of our clients are using this drone to go to places that are really dangerous. For example, in one of the utilities in the Netherlands, there's been an accident where the scaffolding collapsed and it killed 5 people. So now they're using the drone to replace or to avoid that risk. How do you put a price tag on a life? It's really hard to say, but it has a value for sure.
No, 5 people. Would you like to add anything, Wei?
So I would like to add a point, probably a little bit using AI. So what happens is, with the drone and the AI, you put it together, you can actually do some targeted maintenance on the plants. Why? How do we do it? Because you can use the drone to collect a lot of images regarding the site, and you do a lot of analysis on the plant. Let's say you can actually collect the information of the dirt coverage on the plants. Then you can actually know which area of the plant is actually dirtier than normal, or they are dirty than the rest of the plants. So if, let's say you need to clean table A to Z, so right now you have the information, table D is actually much dirtier than the rest. So you only need to focus your effort on table D instead of spending all of your money on table A to Z. That's why that is the value that drone and AI can actually bring, the cost benefit to the plant owners and the plant operators.
So is that the future, predictive maintenance, where you kind of like get a full look at the plant every day, every week, and then you start making changes in advance? Sure. You guys want to talk about that? And Johan, this is probably not for you so much, but for them.
Yeah, I think predictive maintenance will be very possible in the future with the drone. Yep.
So it's been suggested, since a drone inspection only takes 2 to 3 days of a large plant, to do it more regularly. So every 6 months or every 4 months. And by doing that, one could actually start getting a dynamic information and not just a snapshot. You can actually see if certain of the defects on the plant is developing faster than others. Because after inspection, you don't replace all the modules with defects. Some of them are minor defects. And you don't want to spend money replacing that module, but you want to actually monitor it to see if it grows, if the defect worsens. So because of the effectiveness of the drones, you can deploy them more often and then get this dynamic information about your plant.
Right, so this is the future. Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point, the repeatability of inspection. You can monitor more closely and more frequently your asset, and you can increase the lifespan. It's as simple as
I mean, it's certainly cheaper, right? It's more affordable. That's what is making the time, less time, more affordable, therefore more data that then you can use in your advantage. There are different types of drones. Johan, can you go through them with us? Then we'll talk about battery time, hence why.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have basically, if you divide the drone in two categories, you would have, well, first you can look at the history of the drone market. It came from the military market, then it transitioned to the consumer market, the drones you're having for your kids. And now, at least we believe, but all the analysts believe that the future of drone is for commercial use, commercial inspections. Then if you look at the different types of drone, you have what we call the fixed wings, which are more the plane-like type of drones that are used for long endurance mission, medium altitude, long endurance mission, inspection of pipeline, inspection of power lines. And then you have the rotary wings, the helicopter types of drones, which are used for critical infrastructure, thermal imaging, wind turbines. And within the rotary wing, you have the rotary wing for outdoor and the rotary wing for confined spaces. So that would be the division.
How they work. Okay, so now we're going to talk about flight times for each of them. But I would like to explore that in terms of the objective of what you're using the drone for. So what may happen, this is what I'm trying to get at, is because I get 40 minutes out of this, then I tailor it to services that require 40 minutes. So I'm just trying to get, will this expansion possibly widen the net also in terms of what can be done? So it's about the batteries, but it's also about what it means in terms of the services that can be given with the battery life that we have.
We'll go first. It's always nice to have longer battery life. At the moment, we get about 20-25 minutes out of the drone we use with a current payload, which is a thermal camera, and sometimes also a visual camera. So I would say in our specific application, if we can have an hour battery life, that will be fine. Anything beyond that wouldn't make that much of an impact, but just based on the specific service which we provide. I'm not sure about your input on that.
I think it depends also on the payload, because, for example, you were mentioning when you're scanning fields of land and you have trees. Well, if you have a regular camera, it's going to be difficult and you're going to have to use software. If you're using what we call a LiDAR, it's going to be easier and you're going to have a more accurate point cloud that will get rid of these trees. So it's all about the payload also, and this is bound to move and to increase with time, I think.
You have anything to add? Or? All right, we have a question over here, so we're going to start with the people's question. I have some more for you, but I hope can you hear me? No? Okay.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Al-Marzougi and I'm from Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. We have been using the drone in many applications, in the solar inspection, overhead line, condition monitoring, as well as taking the water sampling in the desalination plants. My question is for the one which are being used indoor. What's the challenges that we have? Mainly we have no GPS signal inside. So what do you think, how we overcome this so we can get the best of it while inspecting the chambers and other indoor facility? Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point that you're mentioning, and we chose this path of having a drone that flies indoor in GPS-denied environment, so it doesn't have a GPS. And that's exactly the point I was making before. You can fly a Mavic, you can fly an Inspire in large tunnels. You need some good pilots because it's very risky, and you're not going to have the GPS, so you're not going to be able to map the indoor of your asset, except you use, we had this discussion before, except you use beacons that you would position indoor, but then it completely annihilates the fact that you don't need to go inside as a human because you're using the drone. So it's really technology for mapping the indoor of assets is clearly not there yet on drones, but it will come in the future.
So can I ask a question, unless there is someone else on the, for now? Okay, if you have any questions, just put your hands up. Can I ask a question about business models? As a company, do I have to purchase my own drone and, you know, actually like teach my people how to use it, create a team around the drone? Can I hire people to do it? To what extent do I need to, how does it work? Let's go through what you've seen and what you know, and we'll take it from there.
Start from me. So basically, I've seen a few models that when I communicate with my clients in Southeast Asia and Australia. So what I've seen is, at first, people will start to ask us to provide the service, the turnkey service, to go to the site and to inspect the plants and then give them the data. Then after a while, they will realize they want to have a team to own the drone, and then they will give us the data and we process the data, because in Southeast Asia and Australia, the traveling cost is high because you need to travel from one country to another, and then you need to bring the drone from here to there. There are a lot of logistic costs. That's why they would like to have a team of pilots or just a team of engineers that take care of the drone, and they can turn on the drone and fly autonomously. And that is one model that we are seeing the clients or the operators in Southeast Asia, Australia, they are moving to.
So I suppose if you're saving a lot of money and time in terms of, you know, with using a drone, but then you're spending it on flights and having to carry around a lot of hardware, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But the question is, wait, when your clients do fly the drones themselves, do you get the data that you need to make your assessments?
So what we do is we actually preset everything in terms of the routes, the settings, the heights. So what they need to do is just to bring out the drone, turn it on, and then set it to fly. You know, they can have a cup of tea, and then they come back. The drone will come back itself and land itself. So that is the idea. So they don't really need an extensive drone experience. They just need to know how to maneuver the drone in order to, you know, in case of emergency, they need to evade a tree, or they need to bring it back to the original point. So it's minimal drone experience.
Yeah. Remotely.
It's remotely.
Sounds like a good solution, I suppose. Okay, what other models, business models do we have?
So we've got a similar experience. Most of our clients need an inspection once a year, so they're happy to receive a turnkey service, so they don't own and operate a drone. But then we have clients that owns multiple PV plants, and one of our clients have already procured a drone, crashed it a few times, but their preferred model is flying it themselves, having their own in-house pilot, but then using our processing software to process the images. So, and I also agree, should we continue to get requests from other countries, we would most likely like to get a local partner in each country that owns and operates a drone, so we can partner with him and we only do the image processing.
Absolutely. Makes sense. And Johan, on your side, your clients are slightly...
I think I'm completely in line with what they're saying. We have really two types of clients. Inspection company, service provider that purchase platform to do the service to end users. And on the other hand, we have the end user, the likes, you know, of the big corporation, big utilities, big oil and gas company that decide to integrate drone technology within their in-house, let's say. And even in asset owners, you would have two companies of the same industry, approximately the same size, and some would go with the service providers, some would go with internalizing the drone technology. From a manufacturer standpoint, of course, I can only say that internalizing the technology on the long run is more profitable if you have recurrent and frequent inspection. Then if you have only one inspection a year, then you're better off with a service provider. Both have weaknesses and benefits, but if you're investing in costly platform, because when we're talking about professional grade drones, they're costly platform, it's a capital expenditure. If you have recurrent inspection, it's going to be profitable in the long run, rather than using service provider that you can use as you want, when you want them, but then if you use them a lot, it's going to be more costly.
Yeah, I wonder, like, do you have any example of any company, how long it's taken them to develop a specific team for drone, both on, you know, the operating side, but also on the crunch and the number side? Because I can't imagine it's something easy, or, you know, it's a lot of expertise.
Yeah, it takes, I mean, some of the large utilities we're working in and that have now in-house about 25 or 30 pilots, it took them 15 to 24 months from the beginning of going on this direction to having an operational team that is current and that is able to operate the drone.
Okay, so that's something to take into consideration as well. It's, you know, a while.
And I think also if you look in the future, drone inspection is going to be part of your business, so it's better to internalize the technology because you're starting to build capabilities in-house that you're going to need in the future when the drone technology evolves. So.
And I suppose the last question, you know, because we've already been given the time signal. So the last question for you guys is, in terms of big data, artificial intelligence, we've, you know, thrown the names around a little bit. So I suppose what's the link? How does it's obviously an enabler of those new technologies in companies, but what's the link? I mean, we're going to be talking about big data. We're going to be talking about AI later. So what's the role of this technology in building those capabilities, perhaps inside of a team and inside of the industry?
So in terms of the big data, so with the drone, you can actually capture a lot of insights. So with the thermal camera, you can actually capture the defects within the plants. And with this, you can actually tag all of these defects with the, you know, the string data or the inverter data. By combining two independent sets of data from the SCADA and the drone, you can actually generate new insights with the artificial intelligence, or in the actual terms we call machine learning extrapolations. So with that, you can actually generate a new level of insights that you can always monitor the data and make sure that your plant is always at the optimum level. So that is how the artificial intelligence in the future can actually help to improve the plant yield in the long run.
Do you guys have anything to add? No? So in that case, I'll just ask, what do you think the drones addition, if you like, to the industry is going to be, let's say, in 5 years? What is it possible that this technology does? Can you do actually cleaning of panels, for example? What are you thinking is going to be the actual impact of this technology longer term?
Yeah, I think it's going to revolve around either ease of use, longer lifespan of battery, and better capabilities in terms of payload. We're starting to see, for example, in the oil and gas industry, drones that are capable of having sensors that can touch the metal for ultra-thickness measurement. So we're going to go in this direction of adding different types of sensor depending on the needs of the customers, I think.
Yeah, I think the sensors you're going to add to the drones is going to open up so many more doors and options. I think we're all going to be blown away.
Yeah.
All right, well, looking forward. Thank you very much to our panelists. Please, a big round of applause for them.